Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our Sabbath Insight. I am Chief Yuya, and I am the founder of the Anu Nation and Chief Jagna of Anu Nation, Anu Life Global Ministries. I want to welcome all of you who have come through on this day and those who will tune in months from now, years from now, maybe decades from now, who knows. But thank you for being here in this space. In our last session, we had an opportunity to sort of peruse the ideas of selfless love in contrast to self-love and some of the dangers of self-love. When you sort of lose sight of what true humility is and true service is and where true healing lies. A lot of times when you're focusing on the concept of humility, people often think it just means sort of like to debase yourself or to always accept maybe what others may find unacceptable, or to perform tasks that maybe others don't want to perform because you're humble. But in a very simple way, though, I've covered humility years ago. You probably find the video, I think it's called Humility, and I broke down what it is and what it looks like. But a very quick and simple way to get to it is, humility often begins with the amount of time that you spend thinking about yourself versus others. Often what distinguishes a person who is prideful or arrogant is that they consider themselves far more and far above others in a consistent manner. And a person who's humble tends to consider others far more, and at a much deeper level than they consider themselves in a consistent manner. And this will lead to a personality of humility. So, as I'm speaking about shortcuts, sort of, if you will, or hacks, like the hack to humility, I also wanted to speak about going back to this concept of self-love, or more important, selflessness, and how important it is. One of the things that I see online a lot, and a lot of people speak about, is like discovering your purpose or uncovering purpose. And I know I'm someone who has spoken about it a lot. Some years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I went on a tour, speaking tour, speaking about self-actualization and uncovering your purpose. So in speaking about self-actualization and discovering purpose, again, it's always been something that's been very near and dear, because it's one of the keen points of confusion that a lot of people find themselves stuck in. Like, what am I here to do? What am I supposed to be doing? And one of the values that I have always sort of instilled in people, is sort of a shortcut, if you will, is your purpose is being where you are right now, but being fully present, which is really hard for a lot of people, to be present in the moment, to be where you're supposed to be, and to be absorbing the moment. I find that often over the years as an instructor, as a guide and a teacher, that's a challenge for a lot of people. I could speak about something from 5 different angles. I could pick one thing, maybe a color. I'll speak about the color red, 5 different angles, 5 different times over the course of maybe 5 days. And on the 6th or 7th day, someone will ask a question as if like I never spoke about it, but they may have attended every session. That's why I say, sometimes people, they're perfect attendance sort of people, but not necessarily perfect presence, and that's an important part of uncovering purpose. And a lot of times people are not as present as they ought be, and therefore allowing their purpose to completely bypass them, because they are too much wrapped up in their own selves. Like you ever have a conversation with someone where you're speaking to them and you could sort of see their eyes begin to drift off, or they go from looking in your eyes and now they're kind of looking at your shoulder, looking at your shirt. You're talking to them and they're looking down at you, might even be looking at your shoes. And you're sitting there looking like, can't you see I see you looking at me all over, like you're not even paying attention to what I'm saying, and you might say, you know what I mean? And they'll say, mm-hmm. Or, could you say that again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last thing you said. They'll play a sort of a game like that. Because unfortunately, we live in a time where a lot of people are just completely about themselves. And that is the immediate way that you lose your way on the path to purpose immediately. You know, purpose is not something that you have to really go out and search for as much as you think you do. If you look at other people that live on the planet, whether they're flying people or crawling people or swimming people, sort of ask yourself if you could imagine, does a cheetah spend years seeking to find its purpose? Does a cougar spend years seeking to find its purpose? Does a coyote spend years trying to find purpose? Or is it something that's known? A lot of times because of our intake of media, we get very confused about what purpose looks like. A lot of times if you watch a cartoon or you watch a TV show, it could be something like The Lion King, where there's an individual in this story and someone like a Mufasa comes along and says, this is what you are to do. This is what you are to be. It seems like when you watch a show or any sort of media, the characters just sort of know what to do. The characters just sort of know where to go. And if they don't, they're shown. And sometimes we reinterpret that onto our lives like, okay, well, where's my Mufasa? Where's the person who comes out of the clouds and say, this is what you were born to do. And this is what you go walk this way and walk that way. And when that doesn't happen, we find ourselves very confused because we're unaware that that's not really how purpose is moved upon. If you are, and I believe it was George Campbell who said this, if you are looking for your purpose or you're looking for your path in life and the path is clear, then you're on somebody else's path. So a lot of times if when we're coming up, or for many of us, when we're coming up, when we're young, we come up with sort of obligation in the path put in front of us, like you go to school or you go to your religious service and your place of worship, and you have these things that are laid in front of you, which are very valuable when you're young for you to acclimate to your social group. And the thing that happens is that you start to sometimes as you go forward in life, you stay stuck in that, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next? What am I supposed to do next? And you follow these different paths until you end up in this space where you realize your life is really lame. You're doing a lot of things that are really lame. And the people who you may ask who are telling you to do it, they all have the same lame response. You'll use it one day. Why do I have to learn advanced algebra when I'm not interested in doing anything in life that will ever require me to utilize algebra? Oh, it helps you to think, but can't I do something that's akin to what I want to do that will help me to think? No, because you need this to pass for the state exams. Well, who established these exams? Did they take me into account, right? So we can go in that sort of way from, through college, as we go through the universities, and we'll take certain classes we'll find that we're super excited about, and we just like gobble up the information. And in other ones, it's like we can't get through the first chapter. Heck, we can't get through the first paragraph of the first chapter of the first reading assignment. It's just like, this is not for me at all. I can't stand this. This is terrible. I don't want anything to do with this. And sometimes, we don't realize that we're pushing against purpose in that sense. We're sort of told in order to succeed that there must be a sacrifice. And often that sacrifice is our own sanity or our own way, our own vision, our own ability to tap into the moment and be fully present in the moment. And, sometimes we'll sort of get to this place where we'll start heading in the right direction. And when we come across certain obstacles we don't even waste our time like with the whole, this is unfair, this shouldn't happen, why me? We push right through them. We overcome it. We understand that our overcoming our obstacles and our challenges is a matter of our own choice. And stuff sort of starts to work. We start to feel that this sort of lean in the universe that's leaning towards what we want. Like when we're going to the right tree to eat the right fruit, it sort of seems like the tree leans down a little bit so we can reach the fruit. We're not having to climb and almost fall out of the tree and everything because we're not eating the wrong fruit, right? So when we're on the path of everything that we're supposed to experience, and we're investing in experiences that are supposed to be for us, we find that they're a bit easier. And we start to sort of put the puzzle pieces together in our life. There are also those subjects that we now study in school, and they start to make sense because that's our soul connecting us to our path and connecting us to our purpose. So, it's like everything in our whole life now starts to point us towards the truth. Every interaction, we may go over a friend's house and there's maybe something that we've been contemplating, and we walk in the door and like on their screen, they're playing a video or a lecture, or maybe they're playing a podcast when we get in their car that speaks to exactly what it is that we wanted to study or what it is that we wanted to learn or needed to learn, right? And, now life starts to be this sort of strong, deep current, or the strong, deep stream, that we walk into, and we float on it, and it makes the decisions for us. Flow over here, flow over there, flow over there. And it all works. And the thing is, that works for a while. But then after a while, we start to feel a sense of uneasiness. And it's like, the anxiety is coming back that we had when we didn't know where to go. And we start to learn that our plan and the Creator's plan are not always the same. And it's sort of like the process starts all over again of like the anxiety, and our reaction typically is to go back to our old ways and start to take things into our own hands. That's why a lot of times we'll always reminisce on, man, when I was younger, I had this kind of excitement towards this, or when I was younger, I did great in school, and then all of a sudden I just didn't want to do, I wasn't a good student anymore, or I was really good. I loved to work out when I was younger. Now I just don't want to move. We go back to these old ways thinking that now I'll swim upstream. The flow is going this way, and the flow may be going towards a waterfall. And now we're like swimming frantically against the current because we're afraid of what's coming next. It's the anxiety, it's the uneasiness. Let me go back to where I feel my joy was, or where I was excited before. And in order to do that, we have to swim upstream against this current that we were enjoying at one point, and we're pulling at things, we're yanking at branches to force our life back to what it was before. You see? And of course, that level of anxiety, it amplifies feelings of being out of control. The more you fight against the stream, the more you feel anxiety, and the more you feel out of control of your life. And we lose our ability to trust. We fall out of the flow. The alignment that we once felt, we don't feel anymore. And now, once again, we exist within a universe that's meaningless to us. And the universe is neutral towards us. And we're not special. We're not divine. We're not loved. And we realized that we were just overexcited because life was going pretty good for a while. And we kind of fell victim to biased and wishful thinking, right? And for some people, we go through this like ebb and flow of that, and, where it's like, oh, things are great. Everything is working for me. The universe loves me. And then we start to go towards that waterfall, which could be the change that we need or the death that we need. And of course, we always fight against death because we're afraid. We always fight against the death of things, always. We always cling to the life that we had before. And as a result, it creates more pain, and we don't realize that the anxiety that we often have is pointing us towards the life that we're being called to live. But we've forgotten that sort of idea. We think that if there's anxiety, then there must be a problem. That sense of being lost deep down, we don't realize that often this is the feeling that's being called to set us free, because the anxiety is saying we got to move to a different place. Where you're at right now is not where you should be, and I'm moving you towards freedom. But oftentimes we don't want freedom. We don't know how to surrender. We don't know how to breathe and say, okay, if I got to go over this waterfall, I got to go over this waterfall, right? So I just wanted to give an example of what I'm sure many of us have gone through, and experienced. And oftentimes, like I said, we experience those things because we put ourselves at the center of our total life experience. And that is a surefire way to lose sight of the path and to never uncover and realize your purpose. Because when you put yourself at the center of everything, you feel a lot of unnecessary pain and hurt. Whenever someone tells you something, you take it very personal. You take offense. If someone meets you and says, "Oh, I never realized you were so short. I never realized you were this skinny. Or I thought you were lighter than what you are. I thought you were darker than what you are. I didn't realize you were this overweight," or whatever the statement is. We believe that those statements are about us. And we feel the pain or we feel the embarrassment because we feel affected by this thought that we thought it was about us. But it only matters to us because we're stuck inside of this small little cipher, this small little bubble of a world, and all we consider in life is how things affect us personally. That's an important thing. It's all we care about, how things affect us personally. So what happens is that now our life becomes more a concern around our comfort. Our life becomes a concern around our pleasure. So we don't eat healthy. We don't exercise. We have a fear of being uncomfortable. And that fear of being uncomfortable then creates an anxiety, right? Then we have a fear of looking bad. So we're afraid of failing anything. So when anything tough comes along, we don't do it. We don't try to tackle it because I'm afraid of looking bad. We're afraid of sounding dumb. So when there's opportunities to speak up and to assert and to be a part of a moment and a conversation, we don't do it because we're afraid. We're in the bubble where we're afraid to look dumb. We procrastinate out of fear because we have this fear of failing. So that creates a fear of discomfort. And, we just say, well, I procrastinate. We don't go any further than that. Then we have when someone says something or someone does something, we relate that event only to how it affects us. And then now we have irritation. Now we have pain. Now we have discomfort. We have hurt. We expect people to give us, when we're living in this bubble of a world, we expect people to give us what we want. Give me what we want. And when you don't give me what I want, then I become angry. I become frustrated and I act out. Right. So we start to realize that when it comes to purpose and being on the path, that our life problems and the pain that we feel is caused by us being stuck in this bubble. Right. And if we can get out of the bubble, we'll have sort of an opposite reaction to the things that I mentioned before. When someone says something, we'll start to realize, if we look at it from a less of a self-centered approach, it may be about the pain or confusion they're feeling or a desire that they may have. less than it's about something that we're going through. A lot of times people will try to trigger you with certain statements. So, you never really loved me anyway, or, I remember someone told me once that they used me. And I knew that was a trigger statement. It was a female, and she was like, I just used you for what I wanted. And I kind of, I let her get the statement out, but it was funny to me. And then I had to explain to her, I said, I know that was a very weak attempt on your part to trigger me into a response, because you don't realize that I do actually have management over my own ego. So that didn't do anything. She was making this, she was having a pity party about something she was going through, and she was crying, and she was like, and I used you, and I had to tell her, and this is a moment of humility, and I just said, you're just not attractive enough to ever be able to use me. You don't have anything about you that would cause me to open myself up in that way, or to disarm my own defenses, because I'm just not attracted to you in that level, at that level. And I don't see you as even being, like, you're not even in my league as far as that. So there's no way you could ever use me. Like, you could never do that, right? And I said it just as calm as I said it, and it was like a sobering moment. It was like the tears went like, okay, that didn't work. Let me try something else. So, the thing is, I don't live in the bubble. So I'm not like, when you're able to step outside of the bubble and live out of that, you can see what's actually happening around you with a more clear eye. This is purpose. This is when your purpose starts to become more clear. You start to see that a lot of times your own personal desires are usually pretty trite. They don't become what rules you. Sometimes we have these urges to watch trash TV, or to listen to trash music, or to eat trash food, and we don't realize that it's just a passing sensation. It's a passing physical sensation or emotional sensation that we're looking for, and we can let it pass by, and it doesn't have to be the center of our universe. I want this, I want that now. Why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? When we start to, again, see that there's more to life than what we're fearing. There's more to life than our pain and what we consider to be our suffering. And we start to look at other people, and we start to see opportunities to show compassion, as opposed to, and let's look at it like in a simple way. Like, let's say if someone comes up to you and they ask you for help, and perhaps they've been on the street for a while, so they may not smell, as minty fresh as you do. And the first thing you're thinking about is the assault to your nostrils and the assault to your senses. So as a result, you're like, oh man, get away from me. As opposed to taking that moment to saying, why don't I show some compassion? This is an opportunity for compassion. And am I here to consistently reinforce my comfort, or am I perhaps here to make the world better? Right? To make the world better. And not because if I make the world better, it makes me feel good about myself, or I can then go tell people, or pull out my phone and video it and say, yeah, see, I'm helping this person right here because that's what I do. That's the type of person I am. A lot of times we can tie our daily actions to something that, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's even spiritual, a lot of times, unfortunately, it's only to satisfy our own personal sense of being, or our personal sense of success. But if we were to say, okay, well, let me wake up every day and think about how I can make the life of somebody else better, how I can lessen the suffering of others, then what happens is that you immediately become less self-centered. Right? So this again ties back to what we spoke about last session about being, all this self-love and not understanding selfless love. right? So once you start to become less self-centered, your view of life widens. Now, once your view of life widens, we start to see the needs of others. We start to see the suffering of others. We start to figure out how to work our magic and our purpose in other people's lives. And we learn skills to make us better at it, right? So instead of just shrugging our shoulders like we see somebody who needs help and we're like, I don't know how to do that. We'll actually learn skills to become more competent to help other people do things, right? And I think I've told some personal stories about that. I don't even want to go into that, but a lot of things that you see, maybe I do or I speak about, I did not know until I decided to know because my people needed it, right? So you start to get into this mode where it's like, I'm going to learn this or I'm going to learn that so that I can help other people. You start to see a larger purpose, a bigger purpose in life. When you start to lose motivation, because you're living from a sort of, again, a personal sort of satisfactory experience. I got to satisfy myself. But instead, when you start to live more on a moment to moment basis, instead of that fear of like, I need to get back in my bubble, you'll tie yourself to a bigger purpose of like, I'm helping others. I'm doing more for others. I'm doing things, even if it's in a small way, for the betterment of others. You'll find that you start experiencing less fear in life. It doesn't really matter what you do specifically, right? Sometimes you'll see people, or we may fall into that excuse of like, well, I have to learn this thing, or I have to get my money. Once I learn this thing or get my money, then I can help other people. That's just not true. That's just not true. What career you choose is not important. How much money you have is not important. All that matters is the larger purpose. And you can always change your career. You can always learn new skills later on in life. You can always learn other ways to fulfill this purpose because you'll learn things over time. That's why a lot of times when people say their purpose is one specific thing, I know that they don't know their purpose. Because a purpose evolves based on what others need, what others require, right? Based on what the world is calling for and how we might better it. So, a lot of times when we're stuck in this very small box or this very small bubble, we can't let go of the sensations that we personally feel as a reaction to different things that are happening. When you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're procrastinating, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling very fearful, when you're wishing that the people who are around you would be different people. If you would just act this way, if you would just behave like that, if you would just stop doing this, if you would just start to do that, in those moments, now I'm in the bubble. That's a surefire sign you're stuck. You're in the box. You could call it the box of the bubble. I usually use the box, but I was thinking about The Boy in the Bubble, which is an old movie back in the days with John Travolta. Very deep movie if you know what you're looking at. But so you could be stuck in the bubble or you could be stuck in the box. But once you start to feel those experiences, you're in it. So the first thing you want to do when you realize, man, I'm back in the bubble, because sometimes you crawl back in. Sometimes you exit, like I say, you're out, you're on the stream, you're flowing. The stream is nice and deep. There's all these experiences. You see the waterfall ahead. You start paddling and running back to get back inside of the bubble, right? Where now everything is all about me, but I feel more comfortable here. I feel more safety here. So once you kind of notice you're in your bubble, one of the things to do to see the bigger picture is to start to try to feel what other people are feeling. Not necessarily superimpose like, yeah, you this kind of person, you're that kind of person, but really openly and genuinely try to feel what others are feeling. Try to understand situations rather than condemn situations. Try to understand people rather than condemn people. And sometimes you might start to see how petty your fears are or how petty your concerns are. Um, if you start to look at, this is an important one because this comes up a lot for me when people ask me this question, like, how do you deal with this or how do you deal with that? Or they may see me deal with certain sorts of people and certain sorts of experiences. One of the first thing I look at, if someone treats me badly or attempts to treat me badly, I recognize it's probably not about me, but it's probably more about that person's suffering. A lot of times people are suffering deep at the spiritual level. It's deep down inside of them. And that internal suffering leads to a lot of nastiness, a lot of pettiness, a lot of manipulation, a lot of scheming. Because if you weren't suffering, why would you do any of that? Life is too good. Well, like life is great. I don't need to play this sort of game or play that sort of game. But if your life is kind of sucky, that's when a lot of the petty behavior happens. So to get out of the bubble, like if I might have a reaction like, what? Or you said what? Or, like I'll try to, I'll check it. Oh, I'm about to go back in that bubble. I'm about to swim upstream. Don't swim upstream. Don't swim upstream. Because there's a death in front of you that you should embrace. Sometimes the death is like, you know what? I'm going to let you get that. I'm going to let you. All right. I hear you. I got you. I've had several incidents as a, man-to-man situations where I had men like threatening me or, because I've worked different gigs where they were very volatile sort of situations. And, I used to look forward to those, believe it or not. I never really told anybody, but I used to look forward to opportunities for me to walk away from physical altercations. Because I knew that every time I did it, I was going, like they say, be the bigger person and walk away. The way I would see it is like when you walk away, you become a bigger person. So it's like I would be excited about opportunities to display some meekness. Because I know what I can do physically like that, or I wouldn't be in the spots that I'm at. Like I've been proven there, like, yeah, you could beat people up. You can this and that. Yeah, but can you see someone who's acting out because maybe they're afraid or because maybe they're suffering? And can you pull back? And then maybe even address them later and try to have a sane conversation with them. So one of the ways you do is see how you can help. See how you can lessen the suffering of others. Sometimes it's just by listening. Sometimes it's just by paying somebody some attention. Give them a little attention. Sometimes that's what's required to, and not in an arrogant way. Like, all right, I'm listening. What? Okay, go ahead. Not that. That's stupid and ignorant and nasty and classless. But sometimes you need to be there to lend a hand. I could tell some stories. I'm not even going to start with the stories. I have a lot of stories of people who I became very, cool with, we'll say, but it didn't start that way. It started with maybe something that could have been very violent or whatever. And I took the moment to say, you know what? Nah, you got it. It's cool. Don't even worry about it. It's cool. And then later maybe came back to him like, yo, so you all right now? And then, communicated with them. Because again, a lot of times people lash out because they're suffering, and you can be there for a person, even if they may not know that they need that. And if you make someone else's life better or create something that makes someone else smile, or it could be something as like small as like a cup of tea. I will share something that happened to me many years ago. Good brother of mine, one of my martial arts brothers. And one time I was going through something and I had to call him about something. I don't know what it was, but he heard it in my voice. He was like, what's up with you, man? I was like, man, I'm all right, man. I just got some things on my mind. I'll figure it out. And he was like, because I think you had to go by his place. He lived in Co-op City at the time in the Bronx. I had to go over there to drop something off or pick something up. It was one of the two. Matter of fact, I remember what it was. I was lending him some money. That's what it was. I was lending him some money, and I was coming to bring the money. And he was like, "Oh man, well I just made some food, man. I'll come down, man. We could, tell me what's going on." I was like, "Nah, it's cool." He's like, "It's good. I'm telling you, it's real good what I made." He was using psychology on me. And I was like, "All right, man, I'll come. I'll sit." He's like, basically, when you come through, just like let's like park in front, like let's sit and kick it for a minute. So he came down and he made some green beans and I feel like it was either a tofu or a soy with it. I don't know. Back then, I used to do a little bit of soy, but I feel like it was tofu and green beans. And he brought two little containers and some drinks, and we sat in the car. And I was like, "Yeah, man, this is," and I unburdened, and I was like, "Man, this is what's going on, man. I'm in a really confused place right now, man. I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to turn, and yeah, man, I'm lost." And it was something really bad that had happened. And I don't even remember the advice he gave. I really don't remember at all. I don't know if he gave any advice, to be honest with you. I don't remember. Only thing I remember is him getting into the car with the bags and the food and us sitting there and eating the food. That's all I really remember. Because I remember the love that he showed. This is somebody who we used to fight together a lot. We sparred a lot, but he was a much, much better martial artist than I was. So essentially, this is somebody who just beat me up twice as strong, and he was teaching me but he used to always say, "Man, I love sparring with you because you could take a punch." And he would say to me, I one day it slipped out his mouth. He said, "Yeah, man, I let out some of my frustrations going upside your head." And it slipped out. He said that, and I was like, "What?" But so this is the experience I had with him all the time, of me trying to hit him, not being able to hit him, and him being able to hit me whenever he felt like it. And once in a while, I might get a good shot off, and he'd be like, "Oh, okay, you're getting better," But this was a very tender and loving moment when he just got in the car. He's like, "Yeah, man, there's some food there, and there's a drink there, some napkins right there. What's going on with you?" And we just sat there and ate and spoke. And I don't even remember. I don't remember what he said. I just remember the kindness. You see, he was in his purpose and on his path in that moment. He was on his path. He was on his path. He was already stressed. I remember he was facing an eviction. And that's why I was bringing him the money. I remember it clearly. And I don't think he initially asked me for the money. I think he was saying like, yeah, he was sharing something like he was going through with his I think he might have asked his father for the money or something. He was going through something with his wife, and he had wife and children, and his father was like, "Yeah, because you going through this because you ain't got no money. Women ain't gonna respect you. You ain't got no money." Something like that. We were talking, and then I probably inserted myself and was like, "Well, what's up? Like, what's how much you need?" One of those type of situations. And then I drove over there and gave him the money. But this is before the days of Cash App and stuff, Venmo. You probably wondering why I went over there. So yeah, long story short, you find your purpose when you perform selfless acts, when you get outside of your bubble, when you scramble back upstream. When you scramble and fight to get back in your bubble is when all the pain, the fear, procrastination, the irritation, the frustration, the condemnation, it all exists there. Outside, when you're serving others, when you're thinking about the larger and wider picture, and most importantly, when you're repeating that multiple times throughout the, it's not a one time like I did my good deed for the day. I had to take a flight the other day, and it was like a really good price on that flight, and there's always a catch. So we go to get on the flight. I'm at the last row, of course, no problem. It was a short flight. It was only like an hour and a half. So I'm like, I was like, I don't care. I'll sit uncomfortable for an hour and a half, whatever. So it was at the back of the plane, last row, and it was 3 men. And I'm like, oh, goodness. and I'm not a small person, right? So there was one guy on the end, and I go to walk down, and sometimes I feel bad, like when I got to get on a flight. It's just my own being in my own bubble, you know. If I have to get like a middle seat or something, or I just think the people are probably like, where this big mother effer going? Please don't tell me he's sitting there. Oh, please, he's sitting next to me. And they might not even be thinking that, but that's what's in my mind, right? So I get to the and you probably can't see that because we're online. You can't really see, but I'm about 6'1", 280 pounds. So yeah, I'm wide. so I'm walking back, and there was a guy in the middle. And interesting enough, I had saw him when we were online. Yeah, I noticed him when we were online. He had a thick mustache like Isaac from The Love Boat. And he kind of looked like when Fed. I'm looking at him, he looked like Isaac from The Love Boat. So I'm like laughing to myself internally, the love boat soon will be big. That's what I'm singing in my head. Old school. Most of you don't even know what the heck that is. But it was an old TV show back in the days. And Isaac was the only brother on the show. The only brother. He was the bartender. And he always had a foxy mama he was bringing back to his room. But so I go back to the row, and the dude, I'll just call him Isaac. He looked at me, and he was like, I was like, yeah, I think I'm in the middle. And he was like, maybe it'd be better for you to go, because he had the aisle seat. He was like, maybe it'd be better for you to sit in the aisle. And I was like, you sure? I was like, I'm nimble. I can squeeze in for the time we're here. And he was like, no, you know what? This is my good deed for the day. and I was kind of like, I think I did say it. I was like, it's a deed for both of us, because like, you gonna be the one uncomfortable. Because at the end of the day, I could just fan out, but I'm just not that type of person. But I already planned like, okay, I can sit like this for an hour and a half, But there's no good deed for the day. I say that long story to say that there's no good deed for the day. You have to do this multiple times a day. How can I make someone smile 5 times a day? How can I alleviate someone's suffering 5 times a day, or alleviate someone's pain? Keep repeating the process over and over and over till you get better at it, till it becomes a lifestyle. And then once that occurs, you are now walking in your purpose. Your purpose never, ever, ever exists inside of your bubble. Ever. Your purpose never exists within that space where you are the center of the universe, and the only things that matter are you and how you feel and what's being done with you, and you being only concerned with your well-being, and only being concerned with you not looking bad, and with you succeeding in your life. And I want good food. I want to listen to some good music. I want some good sex. I want some good, you will never find purpose in that space. And that's why some people never do. They never do. Because a lot of times when you go to these like online self-help things, that's what they'll tell you. You got to go within, and you got to go. They're telling you the exact opposite of what you have to do to uncover purpose or to live in purpose. They're telling you the exact opposite. You see? So you'll never find it, but you'll just have all of these experiences that you'll interpret as like profound, because you were just exploring your own internal emotions. I found this out about myself, and then I found that out about myself, then I found out about what's your purpose? I'm still trying to uncover that. You'll be 90 years old talking about, I'm still trying to figure it out. Your purpose will always come forth in service. Always. That's why I said I used to like look forward to like when I could, my walk away moments, when stuff could happen and I could be like, you know what, you got it, don't worry about it. You ain't gonna do this at 9. I ain't gonna do nothing to them. You got it. Because I know in those moments the picture gets wider. Every time I provide service, the picture gets wider. I get more insight and more visuals on what the plan is. But every time I'm servicing my own, yo, I'll go off, or yo, you ain't gonna talk to me like that, or da 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 da, or you know what I'll do to you, or I still got hands. Like don't get it twisted. Don't get all this Chief Yuya stuff twisted. I'm still Big U. The view gets narrower and narrower, and I'm more inside my bubble. I'm more swimming upstream, fighting against the current that's leading me to an evolving death. That's what I end up doing, because I'm now moving towards aimlessness and directionlessness. And I'm moving towards a foggy perception of what my purpose in life is. I'm moving away from clarity. There is no, I saw something online, 7 proven steps to uncover your life's purpose. Don't fall for any of that stuff, man. It's all pseudo guru sort of kind of information. There's only one step. It's a hard step. It's like a big giant step. You know, it's like a Nephilim step. Like, who the heck made this step? There's no 5, 6, 7, 8 steps, whatever, to self-actualization or purpose. Is one step. Get out of your bubble. That's it. It's the only step. If you do that, you'll be walking and living in purpose. You'll feel that alignment and that smoothness where, like I said, you'll go to pick up the right fruit, and the mango tree will just, here you go. The avocado tree will just, here you go. It'll lean down towards you. You get the cherry that you wanted. Just, man, these are ripe. We didn't have to climb up high. No, because you're eating the right food now. When you're eating the right food, it becomes easy. Now you're flowing down the stream, you see. But even those trees have seasons. They have seasons. So when those trees died and then are reborn again in the spring, you might be fighting. Oh, maybe it needs more water. Maybe it needs more fertilizer. No, maybe it just needs to go through the process. And you're going to fast for a season. You're not going to have any mangoes. You're not going to have any avocado. You're not going to have any cherries. For this season, you're not going to have the fruit, the sweet fruit. It'll be back, but it'll be back stronger and different and evolved. Just like you. This is purpose. All right, so I wanted to just share that with you all, and willfully you can see the connect between this segment, last strong segment, and the segment before it, and how they all intertwine together. Where we're looking at our mind, the mind of an Anu person, how to protect the mind of the Anu person, and how to now walk on the path. Because this segment is all about the Tao, or the way, the path, or Tariq. The path, or Ejiogbe, the path, the straight line, or the path that we're supposed to walk on. And like I said, if that path is clear, it's not yours. Your path is never clear. It's never clear. Your path is full of obstacles, but you overcome those obstacles when you are living a selfless life. When you're not, you are at your weakest. Plain and simple. All right. So that's been our segment. This is Chief Yuya. Thank you all. Those of you who've been coming through consistently, commenting consistently, and for those who've been applying as well for to be a part of the community that I am the overseer of. And being the overseer, or being the guide or the jegna, it's a role that I take great honor in, great honor. And most importantly, because those who are members of Anu are referred to as jegnas in training. This is not about one person doing something for the rest of their life and everyone just like coasting, but it's about everyone being trained and cultivated and fashioned so that they can come up to a certain place and come up to a certain level. It's very similar to Sam Greenlee's book, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. If your commanding officer falls, then the next person who ranked next to them, they now become the commanding officer. So, it's you chop the head of a revolutionary and 3 more come forward. It's that sort of thing. So you have to train, people to be leaders. You have to develop that within them, whether they're leading businesses, leading their families, leading their communities, leading themselves, spiritual leaders. You have to train that within people. And that's something that I take great honor in, being that and doing that and providing that service. And we all have a service to provide. And like I said, even in coming into I knew sometimes we're like, well, I need to do what Chief does. No, you don't. You may need to make somebody a peanut butter sandwich. That may be what you need to do. You may need to give someone a lift somewhere. You may need to just hold someone's hand because they're going through something. You may need to do that. Open yourself up to the moment for what the moment may require. And once you do that and you get out of yourself and stop talking about, but I want this and I want that, and you gave me this and you should give me this and you should give me that and you should give me that. These are people who live their life aimlessly, never find their purpose. When you can get out of that, you'll now see the deity and you start to unfold like a lotus, because you're seeing, oh my goodness, look at all of this out here. Look at everything to be done. Look at everything that I can put my hand in to make better. Look at this gigantic world that I actually have an opportunity to improve. Let's get it. Now you know what purpose is. All right, everyone. Willfully to spark some thought, and it sparks some spiritual growth in you. And for any perspective, anything you want to share, definitely put in the comments. I always read the comments. So thank you for those of you who've been like StormX and Brother Logan and Saptahava, and Brother Jason, who've been leaving comments and different things. Thank you, because the feedback oftentimes is limited. I know we live in an era where you just got to get used to speaking and then into the abyss. It's an online era, but I guess I'm older school. I come from the era of teaching in front of people, live people, and you say, you know what I'm saying, and then you see them go, no, or they're like, all right, let me reword it. You get that immediate feedback. So the comments and things are very, very helpful. I appreciate all of you who have taken our time to write them and leave them. Thank you so very much. All right, with that, everyone, enjoy the rest of your evening or your dawning or your afternoon. Shalom.